put that frame on that, you see that rack right there that's on that rolling table? Well, we'll pull that over here where it's handy, and we'll take that frame and shake most of the bees off and set it in that rack. And then we'll take another one and do the same thing. And then we'll take an empty one and put it back. And when we're finished taking frames out of there, and we've got 10 of them in that thing over there, then we roll it over to the door, and we open the door, and we take a soft brush, like this right here, and we brush the bees off of that frame, and we put that frame into a plastic tub like this and put the lid on. Now we've got frames in there with no bees, hopefully. And once we finish getting as many of those frames as we think we want today, then we'll go outside for a while and we'll let the bees leave through the hole in the roof. Then we'll come back maybe half an hour later or so, and we think there's most of them are gone, and they should be. Then we take those frames, and the frame will look like this. Okay, now that's an empty frame, but the frame is going to have a sheet of wax over top of all those little bitty barrels. That's the honeycomb, right? Can you picture that? It's like all the little barrels have lids, and it's in a solid sheet of wax. So we take that frame over here, and there's a number of different kinds of tools we can use. I like using this one. It's called a capping scratcher. And what you do is you just pick those caps off, and they fall into the sink. And once you get all those barrels uncapped on both sides, you can also use a knife like this and slice it off. I don't like that as much. There's also a hot knife, and then there's just a regular bread knife you can use. There's even this medieval back scratcher looking thing that you can. That doesn't work too well either. I like this thing, the cap scratcher. Once we get that, then we take this frame, and if you'll notice, the cells are sloped up this way, like this, on each side. You can see it. If you look down in there, you can see how it's sloped up. So we take that frame over to this extractor over here. They make much simpler ones than this. This is a pretty fancy one. It's got an automatic controller. Okay, so we would take this frame now and put it down in here, like that. Every other slot will take one of these frames. I can't put it there because there's this nub right here that lines up. You see, you have to get 2 grooves lined up in order to put that frame in there like that. And once we get 18 of them in there, that's as many as it holds, then we turn it on and that thing starts to spin. And it starts slow at first, and then it speeds up, and when it does, it's flinging all that honey out against the wall, and then it drips down to the bottom, and we can open that into a bucket. And we usually put it through a strainer, and that's it.
Just capture the wax.
All it does is take out the wax and whatever bee legs or something like that might be in there. Because occasionally, so we just take it through a screen like this here. Now these are a little, they're clean. They're cleaner than they look. We'll clean them out before we use them. Sometimes we'll even stretch this in there too. And all that does is strain the honey so that what's left, we then pour. You'll see a few of these ants here and there. We'll pour it into these buckets, and then from these buckets we can bottle it. We can put it into bottles or jars or whatever we decide to put it in. This is a frame out of a normal kind of hive that hangs from these ears. This is a frame from one of our hives, but we took somebody had a colony of bees in the ceiling in their garage, so we did what's called a cutout. We cut out the pieces of comb and we held it in the frame with rubber bands, and then the bees will fix it. You see how they glued it back to the frame again? And then if you look on the ground outside, when you were out there, did you notice there were a couple of rubber bands laying on the ground? Did anybody notice that? Well, next time when you go back out there and look, you'll see there's a few rubber bands, because we put some of these frames in the hives and the bees chewed the rubber bands up and dragged them out. Can you imagine how many bees it took to drag that rubber band out?
Amazing.
That's how hard they work.
Amazing.
They don't mess around.
There are some bees, that's their only job, is to keep the hive clean. Then there's mortuary bees. They'll take dead bees out and fly off and drop them on the ground, and the chickens will come by and eat them. And there's guard bees. Their job is just to guard the hive.
Nurse bees that take care of the
Nurse
babies.
bees take care of the babies. So,
Amazing.
Everybody's
and they
got a job.
progress through those stages as the bee ages.
The last thing they do, they live for about 3 weeks in the hive doing those kinds of jobs, taking care of the queen, taking care of the babies, taking out the dead bees, cleaning, doing all the stuff, housekeeping, everything that has to get done inside. Towards the end of that 3 weeks, they become guard bees, where their job is to guard the entrance. And it's like everybody that comes in has got a password. It's a smell. So if an incoming bee has the right smell, they allow her to come in. If she's from another hive, they're like, no, you're not coming in. If a yellow jacket tries to come in, no, you're not coming in. If anything that tries to come in that isn't one of their sisters, then the guard bees get mean and drive them off, okay? Once they finish being guard bees, now they become foraging bees. Now the ones that are jetting out of here like little rocket ships and coming back, they're going and getting nectar and pollen and bringing it in. They're now gathering food. They're gathering food and bringing it in and storing it and turning it into honey. And they only live for about 3 weeks once they start flying. A bee only lives for 6 weeks total in the summertime. That's why the queen lays 2,500 a day, because 1,500 are dying every day, and she's replacing them faster than they die. So, usually when they die, if they die inside, another bee will carry them off. But usually just before they die, they'll crawl out with their last little bit of strength and they'll fall to the ground. And late in the evening, you can sit out there on that bench and you'll see bees struggling through the grass and climbing and falling. They can't fly anymore. Their wings are all shredded up and tattered. They've worked themselves to death and they're crawling away to die so that they don't attract anything to their hive. They're not a food source for something that would eat a bee. And actually the chickens don't eat adult bees. They'll eat larvae, they'll eat anything, caterpillar, whatever, but they won't eat an adult bee. That's why you see a lot of dead bees laying on that shingle in front of the hive.
Kind of a heroic act there at the end.
Right.
Wow.
And it's really, you can sit, and I even use binoculars so that it looks like I'm closer. I'll sit there with binoculars so it looks like I'm this far away, but I can relax and sit down, And you can actually see one of those dying bees crawl out on the landing board, and the others will come and greet her. It's almost like, okay, you were a good bee. You can go to the spa now. That's what I imagine. Okay, you go to the spa and you can come back as another bee. So they crawl away to the spa, to get rejuvenated, and then the next thing you know, they're back. It's not true, but they crawl away to die, but that's my little story I like to make up. And so I sit out there and watch them, crawl along. Sometimes I'll catch one and put a little spot of honey on my finger and watch her take just that last little bit of nourishment that she needs to finish crawling away, and put her back down again, and off she goes. Yeah. I'm gonna go middle. Now this is water.
Okay.
This is just plain water.
What does that do?
Well, it kind of wets their wings and makes them busy so that they don't want to mess with
They
us.
start grooming each other rather than worry about us. Hey, you got some water on you. Let me lick that off.
Then I take the hive tool and crack each way like that, because there's what's called propolis that the bees glue everything in with. So, see this? You see this stuff here?
Uh-huh.
That's called propolis. It's like caulking that the bees glue everything up with. So you have to kind of unstick that in order to get them out of this. You can just put that down like that. Okay. This is the feeder, so we're going to take that out. And as you can see, would you hand me one of those tables over there?
Did you build all of this up here?
Many of them I built myself, yes, and then some were built in the over in the plant, the factory over in Dawsonville.
You got a commercial operation going now.
So that just gives us a place to shake off those bees. I might need my frame grabber too, Wade. It's over there on the shelf. Now you see that? Now we can't take that frame. We can't use this frame for honey. And the reason is, this right here is baby bees. Now those have been covered, so those are like the caterpillar has already got a cocoon around it. That's what we call capped brood. So this is honey.
The white stuff is waxed honey.
This is the capping we were talking about, where we take that fork and scratch it off. I don't need that just yet, but we'll keep it handy. Now this side is going to be more honey, you see?
Yeah.
Gonna take that one. Even though it's not completely capped. Okay, empty frames.
Empty frames, guys.
There we go. You can give me some that are completely empty. Good. Okay. Good.
Just hold still. They're not gonna hurt you.
You're good. You're good. You guys are doing so good. You see, you're just like the bees. You're so busy that you're not worried about them, and they're so busy that they're not worried about you. So everybody's happy. One more and we're good. Okay. We'll let these girls go back to work. You want to kind of space those like that. We do have a tool here that we can use. Okay, you can put that in there. And then that gets the frames lined up. So we can put this back in.
I know you can really smell the honey when you walk in.
Did you guys get 4 out? 4 out?
Okay, brush. Got it.
So a lot of bees first?
Yep.
Was he okay when you left? I mean, he didn't fuss, did he?
I just ran.
Go back inside the hive.
I wasn't excited with that. Whacked it a little too hard.
Did you guys open the window?
No.
You did?
Oh, the skylight's open. It's been open.
Oh,
Are you
it
going
has?
out?
Matthew, your buddy.
He's fine.
Well, I'm just trying to get
Okay, now we're going to take these frames over to the door. Now we need an empty tub over there by the door. Now we need to take one of these empty ones and put it over there. We'll need 2 of them. We'll need 2 empty ones.
Can you get one after?
Set it by the door, Ben.
Except for that piece of cloth. Throw that piece of cloth out of there.
You need to move your bag, babe.
All right, put those 2 by the door. Okay. Now,
Matthew, take your hands out so you can go to work. There.
here we go.
You gotta have your hands to work.
You're okay. to you. I'll just put it over there.
No, they're not.
Now, somebody stand over there with the lid.
Not me.
And somebody with the green lid. Y'all switch lids because the green lid goes on here. Okay, now. What I'm going to do is brush the bees off, and you can see there aren't many on there anymore. See? Then I'm going to hand you that frame, and you're going to put it in that lid, in that bucket, or that tub, and you're going to put the lid on top of it right quick.
Get down.
Put it in the bucket, guys.
There's a bee in there, Dad.
Lid.
Hold it tight so the bees can't crawl in there.
Dad, there's already bees.
Okay, baby.
Take it off. We got another one.
Get another one. They're gonna keep coming to you.
Just keep.
I got 18 of them, so be ready.
Here you go.
That
Pick it up by
lid
the-
Ready?
Bee.
Okay, it's all right. It'll get out.
Try to keep them standing up.
She's trying to knock a bee out.
Yeah. You go, Wayne.
You can just put it upside down like that. Until we.
There you go.
There you go, Kim, Aspen.
We gotta fill that one up first.
There you go.
Ooh, I can see it dripping.
You see that most of the bees are off because they're busy. They went back to work.
So
There's a few that think they need to steal this honey back. All right, Wayne, since we got 2 tubs and only 18 frames, we don't have to stuff that one completely full. Let's start with the other one.
Put the lid down upside down. Yeah. There you go.
Some beautiful honey there.
Oops.
I want to feel how heavy they are.
Here you go. All right, now if somebody could bring me those frames from over there, the ones against the wall, just bring them over here and put them in the rack, or I can hold them. Everybody still okay?
yeah.
Cool. I figured I'd hear screaming and yelling if there was something wrong. Here, let me have that one.
I'm probably the one
Matthew.
that might do that.
Happy when I got one.
Okay,
Oh, it fell over.
all right.
Can you just pick it up? You don't want the honey to leak out, so you reach down and pick it up there.
I got honey on my hands.
Lick it off.
Good.
That doesn't suck.
Baby.
Oh,
Wait,
hold
you're
still.
okay, baby.
If you just hold still at this
Camden
point,
made me fall and they got mad.
you're good.
They don't mind a bit. They're too busy.
You're okay.
Now, it doesn't always go this well, usually. Oh, that one is heavy. Oh my goodness.
Probably scaring the bees off already.
Put the cover down upside
That
down.
way, the bees don't sneak back in there.
Let's sneak in.
That one is really heavy.
Oh, lordy.
Oh gosh.
Wait, how heavy is it?
I have honey on my hand.
Yes, okay.
Well, look it up.
Here's another one.
Wait a minute, get ready.
2 more coming after that one, Wayne.
The other box may have spoiled.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, cover that one.
Cover this one, buddy.
Like
Here
this?
you go. 1 more after that one. Oh, there's a
Can you
bee.
slide that
All
one
right.
over here? Is it heavy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Last one.
Sure.
You guys all taking notes?
No. Yeah, I am.
With the video.
That was about 8 pounds each.
That's amazing.
One box was heavy.
Try to figure it out.
Okay, now
All
let's
right.
just get everything rolled back in here, and just like this particular one. what you're trying to do is that.
What is that?
And when you get good at it,
Just slide it right up.
skin that wax
Oh, the
right
honey's
off of that.
dripping.
Well, that's okay.
Kind of like your wheelchair.
Oh, we gotta, Wayne, we gotta do the bucket underneath her.
No bucket underneath. Okay, let me get one.
I don't know how to
I think I'm just gonna, easy. Whoa. Unhappy camper. Okay, we're not gonna worry about the bucket underneath. And the buckets are gonna be these over here when we do start working. Buckets. Bring that stack of buckets.
Yeah, after we get the honey all out. Okay? Yeah. Oh my. Look at that. There you go, babe. You got it?
Can I get what?
See, but I can't do it smooth like you did.
Well, how many times have you done this?
True.
How many times you think I've done it? Big smile, big smile.
I like this one.